Hello and welcome back to the coverage of Paprykarz Open number 5. We are in round 4. We are in round 4 of the team RPTQ, and this time we are going to see some Szczecin representatives on the right. That's Michał Zaremba, Michał Taraska, and Bartosz Skorupa. They are going up against a team of players: Johan Wallner, Andras Rering, and Patrick Meyer. All right. Unfortunately, the names are mixed up. They are on wrong sides. So we'll see if we can get that fixed, but we'll see what they can give us. All the teams are 3-0 currently, so well on the way to earning that Pro Tour invite. As far as the decks go, I'm pretty sure that Bartosz, with whom we see furthest on the right, is on blue-black mid-range. Michał in the middle is on red, and I'm not sure about Zaremba's deck, but we'll see. Oh, it's actually blue-white. Okay. Blue-white. Wow.
Is that actually blue-white? I see a scattering grows, which suggests that it's actually banned deck.
Yeah, this might be the banned ramp deck that was popular a couple of months ago. Playing
unless he just plays no green cards, but really wants
cycling cards,
an extra cycle land.
All
They
right.
see no green spells and all the. He also is not playing that. I think that might be an extra cycling land actually.
Yeah, I think so. So this might be just a classic blue-white cycling, but with an extra scatter grows. So that would make the combination blue-white, red, and blue-black. Because I know for sure that they are playing blue-black.
Definitely, if you have no use for deserts, then it's better than playing a desert of
Indomitable?
the white one.
Oh, the true.
Yeah, that's true. It definitely looks fancier than that, if that's what you are after.
Okay, not.
And there is no technical. I mean, there is a technical difference. It's actually a plains, which is better for glacial fortresses.
All right, Airshake and Conrad joining in with the Goblin Chain Whirler, but as of yet, Skorupa not under a lot of pressure with his life total. He's going to be 12 after his attack, and he's got some answers in hand.
Yeah,
like
choosing to draw 2 cards with Illumination over playing Settle the Wreckage and drawing a billion more Settle the Wreckages.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not as comfortable, but he'll probably pull the trigger now. I think now we have both names and life totals switched, which I believe the red deck is not dealing damage to itself.
Just yet?
In general, by yeah. Okay, yeah, that's better.
All right. Now we're all set.
Playing around Settle slightly, leaving that Airshake Kenra, choosing to leave Airshake Kenra because possibly this Eternalize ability as a insulation against Fumigate, ever so slightly.
So overall, a heads-up play from Johan.
Does he have a Forger to follow? He does, but again, as most players did, he chose to play with Rekindling Phoenix, possibly over Chandras in his main deck, and we've already seen this matchup being played over and over when faced against blue-white.
Do you have another one? Yes, I do.
Yeah, when facing blue-white, players certainly regret that they don't have access to Chandra's game 1.
Yes, because as we've seen, that those Rekindling Phoenixes are just
slightly underwhelming.
Yes, it's still a good threat. It's a 4/3 flyer, but
Johan deciding to strike his own Phoenix to preserve it in the form of a elemental.
So he will get it back from the graveyard next turn, unless something happens to the token. And an Uncrop Crusher.
Post-combat Uncrop Crusher.
Drawing
that beautiful white-bordered island into Fumigate. You gain 2 life, clear the Phoenix. Very nice fumigate for Bartosz.
What's your stance on white bordered cards?
I like white bordered basic lands. They are actually like legitimately useful because you can, if you search for basic lands, which are the cards that you search your library most often for, you can see them
Very
more.
easily.
Yeah, very
Yes.
easy. You can spot them very easily.
I agree.
Especially relevant if you just play one or two. That saves around 5 seconds of your life throughout the tournament, so that's not a lot because you spend those 5 seconds waiting for extra runs either way, but that's not a really great net value, but it is value, so you cannot deny that.
Alright, Bartosz Skorpa developed Drake Haven and already managed to cycle a couple sensors, hieroglyphic elimination. He's mounting up this critical mass of Drake tokens. Not as cool Drake tokens as we've seen from Jędrek Schmidt, but
Certainly not as fun.
no, not as fun, but they are just as useful. And at the ferry.
Yeah, we've seen this story unravel already a few times.
Yes, exactly.
Blue-white control deck stabilizes, then turns the corner, and there is no hope for red deck if the blue-white player has a decent amount of life points. And a Bombard Courier, it's not gonna do it. It's not gonna do it.
No, not
But
really.
you might as well send the message.
Exactly. And I think that Johan is on 14 life right now.
Something got attacked by Bombard Courier.
Yep.
Was it Bartosz or Teferi?
I think I don't really know.
Renewed Faith.
A further insulation from all kinds of burn spells.
From anything.
Yeah. I think this match is pretty much over. What are the things that Johan can draw to get himself out? Are there any?
No. There's just no cards to fight around against all of that.
Alright, and I think we'll proceed straight to scoop phase.
Yeah, just scoops to preserve time to
Exactly.
not draw, because draws are devastating.
Yes. So as we see, the middle match is already over as well. I mean, the first game. So we go to the third decks, the third row, the third seat. We see a blue-black mid-range deck with Scarab God from Michał Zaremba, and
I didn't really
similar.
expect this blue-black mid-range deck to be as popular, but it seems like it's pretty consistent choice amongst the players.
Yeah, I was expecting to see more of the green Galta, Stompy decks.
Steel Leaf Champion.
Yes, and we haven't seen any.
That's true.
Okay.
Have we just figured out the recipe for winning in this format? Because so far, like as we move on, we move to winners metagame more and more, and well, nearly everyone was playing blue-black, blue-white, mono-red, and certainly everyone who was successful was doing that. Michał Zaremba is gonna Scarab got 2 things this turn, or at least he's able to. So with heavy hitters like Ravenous Chupacabra in his graveyard, he can both gain a 4/4 and remove opponent's 4/4. So you can think of that as a mind control effect, and mind control is traditionally strong. So
And we see some interesting card choices. He's playing with the Hostage Taker.
yeah, that's a spicy one.
Yeah.
Bottoming, it's not good enough for Michał.
That was, of course, the Scarab God's trigger resolving. So you scry X, where X is the number of zombies you control. And for him, that was 3.
Getting that nice synergy with zombie tokens from whatever effect did produce that zombie. It was either Liliana. It looks like it was Liliana Death's Majesty,
there is
which
a Liliana.
lies exiled under his graveyard. Presumably with a Vraska's Contempt.
So the Chupacabra is on the champ block duty.
Yeah, blocking with Chupacabra just so your opponent can reanimate with this Scarabia to kill your next blocker that wasn't going to save you anyways.
So yeah, this match is over as well. So this game going towards Michał Zaremba. Michał Taraska on the middle seat has lost, so Andreas has picked up the game for his team. And let's see if there are any matches going on or if it's just sideboarding for now.
The way traction works in those matchups, we very frequently see matches which are basically finished, but are going on for like few more turns, and those players need to close games. Like that's how cards like Chandra, sometimes Hazard, Scarab God, Teferi work. Like the amount of advantage they produce is so insurmountable that you frequently put yourself in a unlosable position before you actually close the game. So actually, very frequently in standard you are playing towards establishing that battlefield.
Alright, let's see if Michał Taraska can establish his battlefield before his opponent on blue-white can take over. 2 Bombat Couriers is a good start.
It's definitely.
Announcing his triggers. Yeah, and they resolve. Even those attacks of 1 per turn are mounting up.
But Andreas actually has to be very happy that Michał actually missed his land drop, because Bombat Couriers are nearly unbeatable when you just pile up on those cards and then you
what he did.
and then you empty your hand. But what Michał did there, he actually cracked 4 cards for 5. Actually, by sacrificing the extra Bombat Courier, he like exchanged 5 cards for 5 cards, because his hand was triple Hazard and a Glorybringer with 2 lands.
Yeah, so that was a very nice play from Michał Taraska. He used the fact that that sacrificing your hand is a cost.
Yeah, that's the part of the
Bombat.
cost. So you can get it around that. You can get cards from 2 Bombat Couriers at the same time by activating the first one, holding priority, and activating the second one. Then you have both Bombat Couriers abilities which say return all cards exiled with Bombat Courier into your hand on the stack. Then you resolve both and you get both piles of messages, I suppose.
Yeah,
Piles of letters.
those were some busy robots. And Michał resolves a Chandra, which, as you've said many times, is one of the keys to actually start thinking about overcoming those advantages that blue-white has over creature decks.
Yeah, Chandra is the excellent perfect threat.
Are you surprised to see Baral?
That's a strategy that I've seen some players employ against red decks, because Baral's body is a decent blocker, it's a 1/3, so it's not the greatest, but it can block in Africa Kenra past the turn it comes into play. It can block a Bombat Courier, it can block Ragavan from Karizev, and I think that's actually it.
Alright.
Then you get the mana advantage on top of that, and well, having your spells cost 1 cheaper is certainly not irrelevant.
No, it's not.
What you should be afraid of when you sideboard creatures like Baral against a red deck is that sometimes you are giving them food for the Chandras and Glorybringers. Michał chose to fight with fire with this Baral, and he might have as well -3 Chandra on this Baral, and that would be kind of a free value for Michał in some spots, at least.
So we saw blink of an eye returning Chandra to Michał's hand. That gives him the opportunity to actually resolve a Bombat Courier, attack with it, and start gathering up cards, the correspondence.
Andreas has to be real happy that Michał went for fight with fire on Baral and not -3 Chandra on the Baral, because that allowed him to wait. Oh, he didn't get to kick that. Yeah,
Oh.
he did not get to kick that. because Baral was not on the battlefield. No, he did get to kick that, yeah, especially specifically because of Michał's sequencing. Because Baral was still on the battlefield while Michał's mana was stopped, so he was not able to recast Chandra this exact turn, and Andreas still got to draw a card, so small things adding up. Those small advantages adding up in standard, that's very frequent
So
way
now,
games are decided.
so now we see a Torrential Gearhulk bringing back Blink of an Eye, and Blink of an Eye returned a seal away. I guess that Andreas was planning on attacking Chandra with that Torrential Gearhulk, but Michał left Abrades in his deck after sideboard, expecting that, probably.
Yeah, I like that play from Andreas. That was a nice one. It was a very high payoff if it would work. You would do get your seal away back, kill Bombard Courier in blocks, and then attack Chandra. Unfortunately, Abrade basically saves both Courier and Chandra.
So now the seal away that has been returned takes that Bombard's Courier.
And again, we see the blue-white control deck struggling to fight the powerful red Planeswalker. Andreas ready with a disallow in hand, maybe to fight the ultimate ability of Chandra if Michał goes for that on 7. Although Chandra only plus to 6. It is pretty weird because like Andreas kinda actually wishes that Chandra would be at 7 if Michał would be inclined to go for that. Wow, this could be huge actually.
Could you explain?
Because Andreas just went for activating Field of Ruin end of turn, and he does not have extra lands. It seems like Michał was not interested in activating that. Possibly as something valuable that he values in the graveyard.
I think I see an Earthshaker Kenra.
If he would choose to activate Scavenger Grounds, he would both clear the graveyard, which is not really relevant, but he would deny Andreas a land. Therefore making Torrential Gearhulk an uncastable card.
And there is also an approach sitting in Andreas' hand.
Yeah.
So
you think that Andreas has not made land drops for a few turns, so that was a play though to give some consideration to. Unsure about which one was the better from Michał's perspective. Especially since I was unclear to me what was his last card in hand.
we will see Chandra going up. It's a mountain, so Andres will go down to 3. There is a second Chandra in Michał Taraska's hand, so this match is certainly not over.
That's a naked Gearhulk, just to pressure Chandra, and an extra approach at the second sun.
With no 7th land.
I mean, imagine that if you had 5 lands here, that would be even worse.
Okay, first Chandra plus, mountain 2 damage. So Andreas is at 1. Now this is crucial. What will Michał do? Earthshaker Kenra. If Andreas disallows it and has no other counter spell in his hand, then Michał
I mean,
can
he has
resolve.
E-Scatter, so he's gonna E-Scatter if he's gonna counter that.
Okay.
He needs to E-Scatter that, disallow the second Chandra if Michał goes for that.
Yeah.
Then actually is a decent spot.
Michał choosing to cast the second Chandra. Yep. Gonna eat a disallow.
Wow, now Andreas, like, if Andreas draws a land, he just wins the game.
He does not.
Disallowed
It's still good.
yeah, disallowed does a similar thing, because it basically buys you a turn. Michał has a fight with fire, I believe.
Yes, he does.
Left in hand, so he's gonna bring back an Earthshaker Kenra. You disallow that, and then you redraw, try to draw a land again.
Yes.
But Michał is now short the Kenra.
Is
Now
it a
you
land?
also untap with a blocker.
It is a land.
Yep, untap
By
land,
the narrowest of
approach of the
margins.
second. I mean narrowest. Like he spent 5 turns drawing into that 7th land.
I think that was one of his last opportunities to do it, really.
No, Michał still needs to top deck something.
He had a second Earthshaker Kenra. Oh,
Against Torrential Gearhulk ready
yeah,
to block,
sure,
so
sure, yeah.
that cancels out.
I got overexcited
Yeah.
for the red
I mean,
deck.
it was pretty exciting for Andreas.
It was. Especially
To
that
draw
there is a
this land.
second land.
This-
There is a
this-
second approach.
Yep. Let me think about that. Do I want to win the game? Yes, I
Yes,
do.
I do.
Sure.
Seems pretty good. That seems like a good play. But win the game line is pretty okay. So Bartosz won the first game, so I guess that the first table has squared up their results. So now we'll go to table number 3, so Patrick Meyer and Michał Zaremba. And
So yeah, Andreas won the match, right? So
yes,
they are just looking for one more match win in there. Both Michał and Bartosz are leading 1-0 in games in their matches. So
Patrick just squared things up with Michał Zaremba.
okay, that's true.
Now both Michał and Bartosz have to win in order for Szczecin's team to maintain their undefeated record. They were 3-0 coming into this round, and a loss basically gives you slim to none chances of making the top 8 at this event. We have 92 teams, and the top 8 will play on because the top 2 teams received the invitation to the 25th anniversary Pro Tour.
I also think that it is interesting that Andreas actually, I thought it was Andreas
Yeah.
for the whole time. So it was interesting that Andreas had approach of the second sun postboard against the red deck. This is a strategy that's like, I don't think that there's a universally agreed upon strategy about whether this card is good against red or not. It certainly gives you, like, even the front side can give you a lot of briefing room in some cases. Just gaining 7 life or 7 mana on sorcerer speed, it could be good enough to give you some room to play, because playing at 8 life is so much easier than playing at 1 life against the red deck. And the mere fact that you have approach of the second sun in your deck makes it so you don't really have to entirely deal with every single Chandra, every single Glorybringer and every single hazard your opponent plays throughout the game. You just have to deal with them for long enough for you to cast your approaches.
Okay, I think the players are resolving their mulligans on table number 3. Perhaps we could see how that match plays out. It's a blue-black mid-range mirror. Blue-black we've seen a lot of this tournament already.
Yeah, we have not seen a lot of mirrors though,
Yeah,
in general.
yes. The teams have decided to put their decks in various spots in this event, because the seating is consistent. If you sit in the middle, you have to sit in the middle for the whole duration of the tournament. And teams strategically decide which deck they want to put in which position. So some decks decide to put control in the middle, some decks decide to put red in the middle, and thus we haven't seen so many mirrors. But this one is going to be interesting.
Patrick Meyer drawing all these Scarab Gods in his deck, presumably in his nearly opening hand.
Alright, and he's also drawn an Argyll's Bloodfast, which might be a great source of card advantage. Now Gonti hitting the battlefield for Michał Zaremba. Let's see what 4 cards. There is a card, there is a check card, so I assume that is a next Argyll's Bloodfast. Veraska's Contempt, I think.
The funny thing about Argyll's Bloodfast in this matchup is that, again, the land side comes into play a lot. Since this matchup is centered around Scarab God and Vraska's Contempt in your opponent's Scarab God a lot, it comes up significantly often that you want to flip your Argos Bloodfast and then play your Scarab God against your opponent's Vraska's Contempt. If they want to kill it, you just sacrifice it. It ends up in your graveyard, it triggers, and you get it back at the end of turn. Then you do it again. That's really hard to beat. Some of those decks incorporate Field of Ruin, so
Double Glint Sleeve Siphoners coming up for Patrick Meyer, while Michał Zaremba responds with his own Champion of Wits, taking a look at some extra cards, filling out his graveyard a little bit, because it's exceptionally empty right now, given how heavy those decks are on removal.
although with Field of Ruin being a thing,
Mhm.
the unified standard format comes into play a little, because you can look around and look at what your opponents, what your teammates are playing against. If you see that the blue-white player on the other team has Field of Ruin in their deck, you can feel safe about your Temple of Aklatots. It's not gonna get destroyed by your blue-black midrange opponent.
Exactly, because you can only use cards in one deck. So if there is a Field of Ruin, even one Field of Ruin in blue-white, other decks do not have access to it.
That also comes into play because the very popular setup that we see a lot is blue-black midrange, blue-white, and mono-red. So two blue decks sharing color.
Mhm.
So it's very useful to communicate with your teammates about whether your opponent is playing with Jace's Defeat, with Negate, with the Disallow, although Disallow would usually get played by control deck. This is all useful information as to whether you should play around or not play around certain cards. Ease and Scatter is another one.
Patrick found his fifth land. Unfortunately, it is tapped, so he will still have to wait to deploy that Scarab God.
I'm not even sure if you are interested into just jamming it. Like, your opponent is gonna have a Vraska's Contempt for 90%
Yeah.
of the time. Granted, you have two, but you might as well wait and try to find a better opening for that. You have
Exactly.
a Bloodfast active, just sit there and draw cards and enjoy life while
Alright.
keeping answers ready.
So Liliana Dev's Majesty hitting the battlefield. Making some zombies, filling the graveyard. And Michał is starting to develop a pretty significant board. Vraska's Contempt taking down Planeswalker before it gets out of control. Now let's see what Patrick decides to do.
Are there two zombie tokens in the battlefield, or is that just a piece of paper that is sitting there for no reason?
There is Patrick's hand. There are two zombie tokens, I think.
Oh no, it's
No,
it's the
oh.
Gunty card, yeah.
It's the Gunty card, which is a Bloodfast, by the way.
Yeah. Patrick ultimately decides to slam this Scarab God after exchanging his answer. Makes more sense now.
No, it's oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the Gunty card, so they are moving it aside. Also makes more sense now because last turn he also had an answer to play. If he doesn't get to spend his Bloodfast mana. Now he is he's not ahead on the battlefield, so it makes more sense to play the Scarab God. Exchange it for a Vraska's Contempt if my opponent has it. I would assume that Michał playing a Bloodfast on his own might incentivize Patrick to play the extra Scarab God again, just to try to get it on the battlefield in that window where it's relevant. He might also just sit and wait for... Oh, I did miss that. Yeah, there is a Champion of Wits in the graveyard. That's also a pretty good play. Finding more of those interactive cards. Deciding to wait on this Scarab God until you have 9 mana. Or Temple of Aklatots, which I was talking about before. It's a good play.
a Karn in hand for Michał. I don't really know if I like Karn in this matchup. I don't know if I like Karn in his deck.
Well, Karn looks like a basically howling mine
Mm-hmm.
for Michał. The construct producing ability does not seem to be overly threatening. Karn being a overall pretty decent card, it's probably valid to
Yeah,
have it in your deck in a mid-range
it is.
matchup.
it is pretty decent. However, I think it was overhyped a little bit at the beginning. But it certainly has found its place in many formats, in many decks. We've seen it pop up in Legacy. We've seen it pop up in Modern. Certainly has put its mark on Standard as well.
We've seen Michał fiddling with his Champion of Wits, thinking whether to attack with it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Just to suicide it, so he has it in his graveyard to potentially eternalize that. Decided to leave it back. Makes sense, granted that he can use it to block or double block either a Cleansly Siphoner or eternalize Champion of Wits of Patrick if he would decide to attack his Karn. And he has a place, and Michał has a placeholder to protect, so it makes sense to leave it on the defense.
Mm-hmm. Has down taking care of Champion of Woods. However, now it is available for this Eternalize ability, as you mentioned. Alright, Patrick has decided that getting rid of this Karn Planeswalker was worth.
I'm slightly surprised by the amount of cast downs that both players left in their decks in post-board games.
Gifted Etherborn a follow-up.
This is a balance that is very hard to
Strike.
The amount of removal spells that hit a limited subset of cheaper creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course you want all the Vraska's Contempts, because they can answer the Scarabdian God, and it's a very desirable trait. But how many of the small removal spells do you need? How many of them do you want on the play versus on the draw? It's one of the hardest parts of the standard format. Or standard formats in general. That's a question that you have to answer pretty frequently.
Alright. Michał deep in the tank has decided to eternalize his Champion of Wits to draw more options. He's found a Vraska's Contempt. You have to feel good about that card.
Also
But
two
there
extra
is-
champions.
Yes,
Not even deciding to discard the
second one.
second one, which makes sense because he wants to filter his draws away.
Karn, very good at revealing lands from the top.
I mean, of course, Karn's plus ability is gonna yield you lands more often than a regular draw, because it's just like a worse than a regular draw, because
Yep.
it gets interfered by your opponent.
There are those times where opponent has no good choices, but certainly
A teammate chiming in with advice, saying, "Hey, you should play the Scarab God."
I heard it's a good card. You should try it.
The threat of Essence Scatter is, of course, not to be underestimated unless a player facing blue-white control deck has seen Essence Scatter in his opponent's deck. Because if that's the case, then Patrick can feel like really can just jam the Scarab God with no fear and reanimate a Champion of Wits from the graveyard with its ability and gain a pretty unsurmountable advantage. Seems like that's what he does. Of course, you cannot know for sure, but maybe opponents. Oh, that's not actually.
It's not the token that you want.
Yeah. Because the token that you get from the Scrap God actually has free CMC.
Yes.
That
it has
might
a cost.
that might yield some confusion. With Fatal Push being a card that is in Michał's graveyard, and possibly he has more in his deck to draw. On the other hand, actually Michał has a eternalized Champion of Wheat, and to indicate that he uses Champion of Wheats pulled from the sleeve, which is usually what you do with the Scarab God thing, so that's pretty funny. Because like they switch them other ways around.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was just looking at those lands that Michał just exiled. They were the lands that were exiled with silver counters from Karn. If there is any future Karn, they are a possibility, of course. But
of course, there's also no doubt that Michał would love to get them, to get that either happen.
Yes, I know. Doomfall revealing a handful of creatures and a duress.
Yeah, so Michał has a Raskas contempt to deal with the Scarab God. He also has a handful of lands and the extra Champion of Wheats to clear that away. To clear those lands away, maybe draw something.
Alright.
Also, like, the funny thing to notice, look at how busy were both players with spending their mana. How little did those Argyll's Bloodfast do?
Yeah.
They just had no opportunities to use them throughout the entire game.
Because they either had to keep up the removal or deploy their threats.
Yeah, they're just spending all their mana on every turn.
It is an interesting match for sure. What is also important, Michał has already dealt with 3 Scarab Gods from Patrick.
Yep.
So
he dealt with 2. He exiled 2. There's a third one that's in the graveyard.
Yeah, the graveyard. So
If
Liliana Death's Majesty.
Liliana Death's Majesty into the Scarab God is still a possibility. But it is true that Michał is ahead in the count of Scarab Gods left in the deck by a huge margin.
Which is not irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant, but unfortunately that's not the that's not really the competition that the player is shown for. It's about dealing 20 points to your opponent and not about having more Scarab Gods in their decks, but there's a non-insignificant correlation with those two things.
I like that term, non-insignificant correlation. Alright, Chupacabra taking down the Eternalized champion.
Yeah, Michał is also just getting behind on the board. He's taking 12 damage. So all those exchanges and those Scarab Gods, what they allowed Patrick to do were to just
build up.
Build up some tempo advantage.
No, you're at 80, right?
And like even though players are like virtually
attack 410, 6.
even on cards, even though Michał drew slightly more lands, like he still has some action going on. He just has no time to fully take advantage of that.
So now Doomfall the draw, not ideal in this in these circumstances. Michał pretty much knows the contents of Patrick's hand from the previous Doomfall, so Champion of Wits, the play.
Champion of Wits hoping to draw some sick combination of cards. A Hostage Taker.
Ooh. Hostage Taker and a Cast Down.
Hostage Taker, Cast Down.
Hostage Taker can take care of the token. Or it could...
I think you would rather just take the Gifted Etherborn. That way you actually stabilize the board. And then you cast down the token.
Okay.
Or Glenisleeve Siphoner to prevent card draw. I am unsure what is the energy count for Patrick, because Patrick correctly apparently writes down his energy on paper. Oh, excuse me, there's
an energy counter.
Which we cannot see on coverage.
Because he correctly put it right in the corner. Just so
I don't necessarily agree with correctly in this sentence, but
it's correctly so that we couldn't see it, you know.
Oh, you can also steal the Chupacabra.
Yep.
Then you have no lifelink Etherborn, but you have 3 creatures versus 3 creatures, and they are all small. That's a fine play too.
One has Menace. So let's see. There was a
Will we see Michał actually stabilizing that thanks to this miraculous hostage taker? There are still like 2 more Champion of Wheats to be eternalized this game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think players went through 5 or 6 already total.
We should count the decks, you know. There is also, of note, Memorial to War among Patrick Mayer's lands.
That's true, and as we talked before about the Scarab God being the last Scarab God, well, it's actually can be remembered
Mm-hmm.
by, like, don't know, Dominarian citizens
Yes.
and brought back to life. And then, well, that might be scary for Michał.
Yep.
That's a plan that Patrick would need to employ across 2 turns, because at this point of the game, playing the Scarab God without the activation mana is
Mm-hmm. Not good enough.
not really the thing you want to be doing. You don't want to expose it. You want to get that value. Liliana Death's Majesty.
Another way to bring back the old god.
Yeah, that's interesting. You could play Liliana Death's Majesty and actually plus her, so you don't expose your actual Scarab God to,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have too much value from having a Liliana on 2, especially if the game is gonna, if the game is possibly gonna get close to decking, which it might.
Mm-hmm.
Then activating Liliana each turn might prove dangerous. So what Patrick might do is to play Liliana and just splash her. Let's see if it's interested in that. No, he goes for the assured value.
All right.
The dangerousness of milling your own cards also varies widely on whether Patrick has even a single copy of Commit to Memory in his deck or not. If he has a Commit to Memory, he's no longer concerned about decking ever.
Yes, of course, because he can just time twister. All right. I think the match has concluded because I think that Bartosz Krupa lost his match,
Okay.
and that's why.
Oh, well, too bad, because I was really really wanted to see how this game will proceed
Yeah,
and what will actually happen.
exactly. But yeah, players.
It was possible that Michał would just get overrun in the next turn or 2 if he didn't find the answer for the Scarab God. If he bloodfasts into his extra Vraska's Contempt or Torrential Gearhulk, even better, kill the Scarab God, stabilize, that would be great for him, and then the game would be really interesting.
So the team from Szczecin has lost. They fall to 3-1. The other team improves to 4-0, and they are well on their way to get those Pro Tour invites, the thing that everybody wants. We are in Szczecin at Paprykarz Open number 5. This is the Team Unified Standard RPTQ for Minneapolis for the 25th anniversary. You can see we have a room full of players, almost 300 of us, over 300 of us counting the staff. We will be ready with the players interview in a couple of minutes, but for now, stay tuned.